orange. Okay.
See if they can hear it.
Yes. Can you hear me okay now, Nat?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Do a do-over. Good morning.
The sound stopped again. Okay, you're back now.
If you can hear it now, that's a mic.
Yeah, can you hear us now like that?
Yes, we can hear you.
It shouldn't be that.
All right. Hey, this is a good problem to have, in my opinion. So again, thank you very much. So the whole purpose that we wanted to do it on Thursday was so that way we can follow up with our broker tour. So we wanted to give it a change for 2026. So I'm excited. Hopefully you're excited as well. So let's go ahead and continue. Next slide, please. And I brought my mirror ball as well. So be ready. Be ready. Please make sure to silence your phones out of respect for each and every one of you. So please silence your phones. Next slide. Mission, believe in our vision is to provide agents with a place where they will be empowered, trained, and motivated to experience growth, wealth, and a legacy that allows them to live their best life possible. Our beliefs with the value of your own company align with your own beliefs. You know, you found your professional home. And our vision to achieve amazing professionals and personal development so that KW South Bay remains the agency of choice. Okay. Why is it important to have a vision? Gary.
Where there's no vision, forecast of restraint.
That's right. Yeah, it's beautiful. Steve, why is a vision important?
It's the goal. It's to be able to keep you focused when you want to waver, which is easy to do with this business.
Very easy to do so. Yeah, appreciate it. Awesome. Thank you. All right, let's continue. Next slide. All right, just a friendly reminder, support team here to support your business. Your business. Let's continue. Next slide. Friendly reminder, right after our sales meeting, we have our KW Care Super Bowl brunch. So look at all these amazing players here. We're ready, you know? So thank you, Natalie, for doing this for us. And the funniest thing is the Chicago Bear jersey. That's actually my favorite number, 23. And it was just out of coincidence that she knew. I says, hey, how did you know it was my favorite number? And you know what 23 really stands for?
Who's that player?
Yeah, Michael Jordan. Chicago Bulls. Yeah, Chicago Bulls. All right, so right after we'll have our I think that's where everyone's probably waiting. It's like, we're just waiting for the sales meeting, you know, feed our tummies. All right, let's continue. Next slide. Let's bring Rosewood Morrison Property Inspection.
Thanks for asking, Simon. Good morning, friends.
I have a story, and she's going to share, actually, if you don't mind.
Of course, I would love to. Fun fact, my cousin plays for the Chicago Bears. Unfortunately, he broke his fibula earlier this year. If you can guess, his name is TJ Edwards. Anyways, so naturally, even though I grew up in Wisconsin as a Packers fan this year, and until he's not on the Bears anymore.
I'd like to get an autograph.
As soon as I get one, Simon, maybe you can.
It's probably you ain't talking to, you know, you can get to.
We talk, but like we're not close like that, so I usually don't like bring this up unless people bring up the Bears. But Simon's request.
It was just a coincidence, you know. I was wearing my shirt, and she goes, "You're a Chicago Bear fan?" I go, "Yeah," and that's how it all started. So
Right.
it's amazing.
Here. But anyways, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Rose. I'm the general manager of the South Bay franchise. We are a property inspection company. We're full service, so we also have a chimney inspector and a sewer scoper. One thing that I think differentiates us from the competition is our reports will always be done the same day. And our inspectors are always available afterwards for any questions that you might have. So I think that one of the most valuable services also that we offer is our repair pricer. Once you're done getting your report, you have a list of everything that needs to be done for the home. We can get you an estimate of the approximate cost for your zip code of how much it costs to repair this. It's not an estimate, it doesn't have any contractors in it, but it will give you like maybe 10,000 for this repair. So you have a tool to either negotiate or to speak with your client about. Other than that, we are located in the South Bay. We're a small family-owned business. So when you support us, you're supporting the local economy. We go to Redondo, oh my goodness. We go to Redondo schools, and we're over here in the community, so you'll see us around. Also, we'll have lunch afterwards, so don't worry. I know there's nothing there yet, but soon.
What other inspections than just your general inspections do you also provide?
So right now, we also have a chimney inspector, we have a sewer scoper, we also have thermal imaging and drone inspection services.
Okay. Yeah. I actually had a chimney inspection done by their team. Very thorough inspection that was done. They went to the top. They brought a camera and was able to see the internal aspect of the chimney. So really good information.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Any other questions for her? Yes.
You have the inspections?
We do, yes. There is a
Question.
weekend service fee, but yes, we are available on Sundays.
How much do you charge for the inspection?
Starts at 400 for condos and townhomes and 450 for single family.
How much is the chimney inspection?
375. It is a level to it. We use a camera.
Good. Any other questions? Okay.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate it, Rose. Thank you very much. Also, why is an inspection vital and important? Easy question, guys. Liability purposes. Okay, what else? Why do we have an inspection? Yes.
To prevent any future problems like legal issues and also any upcoming costs that the new owner doesn't know, whatever.
Okay, so future issues. What about present issues?
Same thing,
Okay,
the moment they become owner, it be the next day or 2 months later.
got it. Okay. Why do we have an inspection during escrow? Steve.
So the buyer can see what they are buying.
Right.
Because they want to be able to see what they can't see specifically. Specifically, the foundation, the attic, the plumbing, the electrical, all the stuff behind the walls, and under the ceiling and under the floors.
It's kind of like testing the vehicle, right? Kicking the tires, opening up the hood, making sure that the engine is running smooth, checking the transmission, right? That's the whole purpose of an inspection, right? Is it required? Is it mandatory to do a home inspection?
No.
Okay. Why, Gary?
It's
Why do you
very-
say no?
Well, it's not because they still, any house you buy in California is as is.
Okay, good. Yeah,
However, the state doesn't recommend it. You know, it's not required, but it's recommended.
got it. The contract says that the buyer has every right to do their fiduciary duty of inspecting the property, right? Yes or yes? Yeah, absolutely. Is it our job to dictate the narrative of that conversation if they ask us, hey, Steve, you recommend I do a home inspection? What do you think the answer to that is?
Yeah, it's a beautiful property. You'll never need it. That come on, I'm gonna make a lot of money on this transaction, and you're gonna thwart that if you don't, if you end up having a home. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Regardless of the condition of the property, if the property is in move-in condition, you still want to encourage your clients to do an inspection. What happens if they still choose not to do an inspection? What is the recourse and what is your position?
You have to have a booking sign,
You have to have what?
saying that the buyer has opted for.
Yeah, you should have something in writing that says that the buyer is waiving their rights to a home inspection, right? And the reason behind that is why? Why do you think that you want to have some documentation and proof that, the buyer is okay with the overall condition, is not willing to do any inspection, and is willing to take the property moving forward as is. Yes,
So they cannot say in the future that I was not advised to do so, or I was told not to do it, or yes. So it's kind of saying if they said no, nobody told me, say, oh, no, this buyer said that I'm waiving it, I have. Exercising
Absolutely.
my right not to.
you know how many times I get situations where the buyer says, well, I did not know. Well, the agent did not tell me. And we get that quite often. I typically get the brunt of a lot of the complaints that come in, right? And for us to protect ourselves and to protect the processes, you want to make sure you document each and every process, right? From beginning all the way to the end. Even if the deal doesn't go through, the deal falls apart, right? It's okay. You know what? Deals do fall apart. You still want to have documentation. Our job is to navigate that and, make sure that the buyer knows fully what they're getting themselves into, right? Because at the end, they blame us for not providing them a streamlined process, right? And more so is when things go sideways, and it can go sideways really quick, right? That's where you see the situation, and this is where you're like, oh my gosh, what do we get ourselves in? Now you're kind of in a deeper hole. Now, just like as Stephen and Gary was saying, absolutely, the buyer does not have to do any type of inspections, right? They don't. But we want to encourage, right? And if they don't want to, we still want to have something documenting that they said they're waiving their rights to not do an inspection. That way they can't come back to us and says, you know what? I regret not doing an inspection. And now you have the proof and the receipt and the signature saying, look, we talked about this. We had the ample amount of time, right? This is why we have contingencies in place to protect the buyer's interest on this, right? Because anything can happen. And going back to your question, Asheen, you're also not just looking at it from the future concerns that the property may have, right? But you're looking at the now too, right? Certain situations like plumbing, electrical, right? Floors and all that stuff, right? And foundations as well too, right? And now you're getting a scope, right? And once you have that report, right? And now you know all the levels of situations that's wrong with this property, what would be the next step from there? Because I know a lot of the seasoned agents already have that mindful approach and ability to understand, okay, let's dig a little deeper into this and see what other issues we have, right? Because the home inspection is what we call a general inspection, right? But let's say that there's issues with mold, issues with roof, right? Then the next level would be is to get a second opinion, right? Because now you want to know what really is the core of the situation. What is it going to cost me? Or what is it that I'm going to try to negotiate, right? Because that's important and vital as well, right? Because this is the period that most deals fall apart is during this process, the inspection contingency. This is where we see most of the deals fall apart. It's our job, ladies and gentlemen, to be able to navigate that and make it a win-win. Now, how many times have we heard that inspectors or inspection reports kill the deal? Have you heard that? Is it a good thing to have a very thorough inspection report with a lot of issues with it? Or is it not a good idea to have that many stuff on the inspection report? Because I hear it from both sides. I hear agents that says, I don't use this specific home inspection company because they're too thorough with everything. And then I hear other agents, I like this inspection company because they're so thorough with everything. Everything's on the table. So it depends on how you weigh it out. In my opinion, and I'm looking at it from a compliance point of view, is the more thorough, the more ammunition and negotiations I have to navigate that conversation with the seller. Okay? And not to put the fear, right? Not to put the fear on the buyer, but to say, look, all properties are sold as is. There's not going to be any property that's going to be perfect. Not even new construction are perfect. So the essence is how you are able to navigate the conversation, right? When you talk to some of the top agents, they love it because now they look like superheroes, right? Because they're able to now negotiate good terms for them to continue with the process, right? Because there's three things that can happen when it comes to inspection periods, right? You either ask the seller to repair it, give you the credit in lieu of the repairs, or do a price reduction. Okay? Remember, folks, and I'm wanting to have this conversation because it just resonates because we see a lot of deals fall apart. I want to be the opposite, that we close more deals, and this is not the breaks when it comes to requests of repairs. But you also have to know how to dance the conversation and make it a win-win where they don't feel that you're strong-arming them, right? And they feel compelled like, oh my gosh, you're asking for everything in the world. And I get it. But you also have to understand from the point of view and position yourself as the buyer. And more so if the buyer is a brand new first-time home buyer, right? They're relying on your expertise and knowledge, right? Because if I was the buyer and Gary, as an example, is my agent, I'm going to rely on Gary's ability to navigate this for me. This is why I hired him for that purpose, right? Is to help me navigate to get me to the finish line. Or in our case, get the football to the receiver that will ultimately go to the touchdown, right? And make a touchdown. That's our goal, is to get us to the closing, right? But it's sometimes can be difficult and complicated. But I want you to understand that under no circumstances does the buyer have to do an inspection, but we encourage and we push all the time to do so. Okay. Now, when it comes to investors, right? How many people work with investors too? You know, they buy the property as is condition, right? Different scenario, different animal here, right? But it's still the same thing. Just because they're a sophisticated investor, they know ins and outs, and they're waiving all of their rights, you still want to provide them with the opportunity to do an inspection, right? And if they waive it, document it, right? Because even investors, and I've seen some notice investors that don't know what they're doing. True story. I was involved in a transaction with one of our agents here in the office this week. The agent represented both the buyer and the seller. Dual agency. It's a house that needs a lot of work, and the buyer supposedly was an experienced investor. So the good thing is she secured a very tight purchase agreement. One of them was the assignment, right? The assignment to be able to assign it to your own personal entity, your trust, your LLCs, or your S Corp or C Corp, right? Now, where a lot of agents get confused and they don't understand this is that an assignment is only to your entities, not anyone else. Anyone else has to be approved by the seller. You must have the approval of the seller. And if the seller doesn't approve it, you cannot assign it to another party. So when this buyer signed and executed the purchase agreement, the offer was accepted. What we found out later was that the buyer had no intentions of buying the property, and ultimately reached out to our agent and says, hey, you know, I want to do my friend a favor and I want to assign it to my friend. So the agent was a little baffled about the situation, and she reached out to me immediately. Says, Simon, I have a situation. I just don't know how to handle this. I need your advice and guidance. So I asked her, give me kind of the scenario and the synopsis of the situation so I get a clear, concise understanding in how I'm going to navigate this. And then once I understood, I says, book me on a 3-way call with this guy. So I immediately were on a three-way call with the agent, with the agent and also the buyer. So I just started asking general questions regarding. When I was talking to him, I says, "Did you have any intentions of buying the property?" "Well, yeah, I had intentions to buy it, but I want to do a favor to my friend and I want to assign it." "But you know that you cannot assign this to another buyer." "Well, we're still going to close on time." This was a 10-day escrow, guys, a 10-day escrow. He had released all contingencies, okay? And on the assignment, folks, it was 0. So you couldn't even assign it because the agent put 0. And in his mind, he thought it was clever that he could just have a conversation and smooth talk her and to be able to wholesale it because he was going to make a spread. He locked it in at this price, and then he was going to sell it to a hedge fund company. And this hedge fund was going to buy it at this price, renovate it, and then turn around and sell it for a profit. Why am I telling you this story? Okay. The reason I'm telling you this story is because if you do end up picking up a listing that needs a lot of work, be careful. If you represent a buyer that's an investor that you so-called believes they are investors, ask a lot of questions. Because there's a lot of investors that don't know what they're doing. And I'm speaking from personal experience. Now, to kind of make the long story short, we said that the seller is not going to allow this assignment. What do you mean? Okay, no, you have 2 options. Option 1, close. Close the deal, and we're done. Option 2, cancel. Cancel. Because the seller is not going to assign this to this new party. You were not fully transparent with us, and you were not honest with us. And now you're just trying to sugarcoat this and try to now wiggle it out, clean your hands, make a spread, and go on to your next property. I don't like wholesalers because they're not honest and truthful. Okay, so you got to be very careful. So he got upset, and he says, "Go ahead and cancel." Okay, I says, "We're going to cancel if that's the direction you want." Now, bear in mind, he released all contingencies: physical, appraisal, loan, seller disclosures. Okay. And in good faith, I don't know why I said what I said, but in good faith, I says, "Listen, we'll cancel and we're going to return your deposit." Okay. I said that. And then he immediately says, "Okay, go ahead and send me the cancellation." And then we hung that call. Then I spoke with the agent, and she says, "How am I going to explain this now to the seller?" I says, "Don't worry. You got a great property. You're going to get another investor, and that investor is going to do the right thing." Not even an hour, she calls me back, texts me, says, "This guy is blowing me up again. He doesn't want to cancel. He doesn't want to cancel."
Yeah.
So I immediately called her. We were on a conference call. I says, "What's going on?" "Well, the guy doesn't want to cancel now. He wants the property." I says, "Okay, let's put him on a call again and let's kind of see where he's at." So I called him, and then at the same time as we were ready to call, escrow calls the agent. "Hey, the buyer reached out to us and he's trying to do a double escrow." Okay, a double escrow. Are you freaking? He didn't tell us all this stuff, So again, his intent was not to close on it. He was trying to find an avenue to kind of work around it. How many people know what a double escrow is? Okay, fully transparent. A double escrow is really they try to portray it that the buyer that locks on the property will buy it and then immediately will transfer title to the second buyer. They'll close and then simultaneously close with the second buyer. That's not the case. Because immediately when transfer of ownership happens, capital gain taxes. Why would someone pay capital gain taxes when they don't truly own the property within seconds of making one transfer to the other. It doesn't make any sense. So not all escrow companies do this, but an escrow company, what they do is they open up two escrows, okay? Escrow one with escrow number and escrow two with escrow number. And what they do is the buyer that locks in the property puts in their earnest deposit, but is waiting on the buyer number two when they put in their fees. Yes, it's more costly for the seller because there's two fees involved, escrow one and escrow two. And they don't fully disclose all that, but there's additional costs involved. But they never close on the first buyer. All they're waiting is for the money to get transferred from the second buyer to the second escrow number. And then now they just switch it when we're ready to record. When the funds are in, then they close. They never close with the number one, but they make it look like it's a double escrow. So when you ever hear double escrow, be very careful because it's not what you think. So when we found out that that was the case, now I was really upset. So I called them and I says, we just heard that you're doing a double escrow. Why would you call escrow and not tell us that that was the intent? You have your agent here. You could have been honest with us of what the intent. And I told him and I gave him the benefit of the doubt. And I said to him, are your intentions to close this deal? Do you even have the cash? Because on paper, you put a cash deal. You didn't put hard money financing. And he says, well, I have an investor and the investor is the one that's going to give me the money. I said, really? Okay. Then why weren't you honest from the very beginning with all of us, right? Now you're compromising the whole situation. So now I told him again, you got two options. Option one, close. Option two, cancel. Now this time you're going to cancel. We're going after your earnest deposit. Okay. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I really did. And he burned us. So this time I said, no way. Now we have every right to go after damages. You know what you were doing. So he was upset and he did whatever he needed to do. We hang up, and then within a few hours, we get a call from the wife. The wife. Yeah. Logan calls, and she says, well, I am so-and-so's wife, but I'm also his partner. I said, oh, okay, well, very nice to meet you. I'm not sure why we're having a conversation, but nice to meet you. She says, well, we made a mistake. I'm sorry. This is not what we want. We want to close. I don't know why you're making it such a hard time. We're going to close on time. I says, I get all that. But see, the problem I said to her is your husband wasn't honest with us. The situation here is that if your husband was truthful of what his intentions was, we have no problem. And here's the thing, a lot of agents would be okay with that because they just want to close the deal. But here's the problem that I haven't said is that a lot of wholesalers sometimes cannot find or that second buyer cannot perform. And now they're asking for an extension, which was originally a 10-day escrow, now becomes a 30 days. And now you're kind of stuck in a situation. And now you look like a bad guy to your seller when you said, Simon, hey, you told me we had a 10-day escrow. And now we have another buyer, and now they're getting financed when it was a cash deal. They release contingencies. What the heck is going on? So I want you to be mindful about the situation because this can happen to any of you. Okay? If you work with an investor or work with the seller. Another story that happened was we have a buyer agent who is representing the buyer, and that buyer did the same thing. And now I have to put that buyer later on this afternoon to discuss what the next step is. So now the situation is that we get a call from the hedge fund. Now I'm back to the original story. We went back, we got a call from the hedge fund company. Really nice guy, very professional, and says, look, Simon, I wanted to, reach out. I know there was a little bit of a bump in situation regarding this transaction. I apologize. We never worked with this guy. He kind of made a mess of the whole situation and put us in a compromise. I said, I get it and I understand that, but we have a deposit dispute now. And he says, well, that deposit is really our deposit. We gave him the funds to put into escrow. I says, it's not even his deposit. Ooh. Wow. Yes, Steve.
Did the buyer's agent on the original buyer under this cash offer, did this agent verify prior to the acceptance of the offer that this buyer had the funds, to be able to make that cash offer?
Yeah. He provided with some type of proof of funds that he had $5 million in his bank account. I don't know if it was true, but I saw it. So it looked legitimate to me. But when we talked to him, he says, I don't have the funds to close out this deal. What does that say about integrity? I don't know.
But Simon,
But
it seems to me like part of real estate deals right now, I get emails every day about off-market deals,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and that's basically what it is. It's people, they go into contract on a listing, the price is lower than it should be, and then they try to make an extra $40,000-$50,000
Yeah.
for somebody else. I mean, so is that not acceptable? Is that part of the market? It seems like.
But at the end of the day, and that's a good point. The question he's asking is, where's the mic at? Oh, we're not using the mic, I'm sorry. The question he's asking is it okay for a wholesaler to make a spread without owning the property? The answer is, yeah, as long as the seller is okay.
Yeah.
Remember, there's a form called the AOAA form, I think. And that is full transparency on these individuals that are trying to assign it to another party. As long as the seller understands and knows what they're getting themselves into, then it's perfectly fine. Yes, they can. But it also says how much of a spread this wholesaler is making too. So that way the seller knows, okay, I sold it for this, he's going to make this, but the end user is going to make this amount or buy it for this amount. Yes, sir.
Understand that part is legal for non-licensees or those who are not representing the seller. We, as an example, when we are listing agents, we cannot intentionally tell the seller when the seller asks us, what is the value of my home in its current condition? We can't purposely say the value of your home is X, knowing darn well it's X plus 50,000 or 100,000. They agreed to list it at X. And because they listed it at X, we then say, I think I'm going to buy the property now, or a family member of mine is going to buy the property now, and now resell it for X plus 50,000 or 100,000. Right? That part is unethical. Okay. It has to end up being that Mr. Seller, understand your property is worth, X, but I want to buy it from you, or a family member wants to buy it from you for X minus 50 grand cash to make a pass. Are you now okay with that?
Right.
Yes. As long as the seller is aware what the open market most likely will bear, then that's fine. But you cannot intentionally, when we as licensed realtors, represent sellers, intentionally defraud them, that we cannot do.
So just to add to that, and hold that thought, Fred. You had a question too?
Yeah. Steve, you're talking about directly of wholesalers. They have a real estate license. Okay, so exactly what you said, it's exact wholesale basis.
Yes, and
So how is that legal for wholesalers to actually?
no, as long as if they are representing the seller, when the seller asks them what is the value, you cannot misrepresent, at that point. If they say this is the market value of your home based on its current condition, okay, knowing darn well that it most likely will generate 50, 100, would pick your number above that number, okay, at that point. And then they agree to that number, that low number, okay? That is an unethical act as a real estate professional.
So let me clarify this for everyone, okay? Let me clarify this. So the listing agent put the property which she felt was a price for the property's condition, which was a lot higher than what this investor put in. The investor made an offer of 50,000 less than what the listing price was. The seller accepted that lower price. So it's all legit,
Absolutely.
all legit. Because the price that she put in, after doing my numbers, makes sense for the condition, and the house needs everything. Everything. It's a flipper, it's a fixer, I should say. Hold that thought, Fred. So she did the right thing. A buyer came in and says, I'm willing to offer this amount. It was on the market for some time, no bites. This investor came in, made an offer, and the offer was accepted by the seller. Where the problem happened was that this buyer had no intention of buying it. He bought it low and then ultimately found an end user that locked it in, and this end user was ultimately going to close on the transaction. Right.
Okay, so answer Chris, if it was flipped, if the agent told the seller that the price was going to be this, knowing that it's here, then that would be unethical. But she put it here, and the buyer, the wholesaler made the offer, which is totally.
Yeah, that part is fine, but what Chris is challenging is it's done all the time by wholesalers.
Wholesaler.
You know, that's our licensed agents.
Now,
That is absolutely correct.
and so for the agent, you have to be willing to lose the deal. Because I just had a
Yes.
situation like this with one of the mentees that they have $1 million property. Investor came in and said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to release these contingencies. But the paperwork they provided was just a letter that said they're approved for this amount. And I said, no, they need to provide their bank statement showing the income. And so they went back and forth without me. And then I got on the phone with them. I said, no, I need to see your bank statements with anything else redacted to show that you have proof of funds. Well, I do this every day, and I guess that's a buy. I said, okay, you have to be willing to lose that deal because they are in there to lock it up in escrow.
Yeah.
They want to get in escrow because it's hard to get out of escrow, especially for a seller. So you demand the paperwork that's required, and if the funds is not just a letter. It's
So the good thing, and thank you for sharing, the good thing is that this agent was very proactive from the very beginning. You know how many times I see that there is no contingency removal form CR attached to it. On the offer, it says that they release this, but you still got to back it up with the CR contingency removal, folks, okay? That's your position that will hold the buyer accountable if they're going to move forward or not. And we have this buyer on the hook. So therefore, just to wrap it up, is the hedge fund company reached out to us, super nice guy. He told us that money was actually theirs. They want to work with us directly and make this deal. They're willing to make a deal and pay more than what was currently on contract. So the way I structure this, I says, look, if we go in this direction, we still need to speak with the seller, but if we go in this direction, yes, it's going to be a little bit more than what we have in a contract because we want to net more for the seller. But also as part of the negotiations, I says that you give the agent the opportunity to list the property once the property is completely renovated. And they said, not a problem. Not a problem. Okay? Because they want the property. They're going to make money on this deal. I know that. I ran the numbers. Okay. So the moral of the story is always get inspections done. But also when you're working with investors, be mindful Are they intentions is to buy the property? And it's okay to ask those hard questions, and I'm gonna get Fred up here for a minute. Fred, come up here, let's give him a round of applause. How you doing, Mr. Howard?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. So, I'm gonna be the tough investor, right? Fred is gonna be the agent, or if you wanna be the agent, so okay. So in these situations, you gotta ask a lot of questions when you're working with an investor, right? So I'm gonna be the agent and you'll be the investor. So Fred, nice to meet you, sir.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about your experience in investing.
Well, I've flipped multiple homes and usually what we do is we come in, we want to fix it up and put it back on the market. We want to get at least a 40% return.
40% return, okay. In the last 12 months, have you closed any deals?
Yes, I sent you over the list of all the deals. that we-
Okay, awesome. And these are all on the MLS?
Yes.
Okay. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I'll verify, right? Why am I doing that? Because I want to see, what properties he has on the market, right? So I can now vet his position, right? Because if he's selling property and flipping them, they're going to come up on the market, right? Are you, or do you have an agent that's working on the back end listing your properties?
I do have an agent that works.
Okay, awesome. All right, so the last 1 month you did five deals. Okay. Are you going to be, if we find the right property that hits all the bells and whistles, are you going to be the one buying the property, or your intent is to wholesale?
Well, it just depends on the property that you're sending. Because
Okay.
I can do the assignment, but then I also can do some on them.
Got it. Okay. So, and the reason I say this, Fred, is because, I want to make sure that we're fully transparent, because I've had that experience with buyers say they want to buy the property, but they don't tell us that their intention is never to buy it, but to end up selling it to the end user. And how I find out is I go in other third-party sites and I see the property for sale at a higher price. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page, that doesn't happen, because I want you to buy it. And if you're not planning to buy it, then let us know, because you know as much as I know, it has to be agreed upon by the seller. So I'm just trying to nip that in the very beginning so that you and I know what the intent is. And I get it. Sometimes the numbers may not make sense, but I also want to be crystal clear in our position that if you don't intend, then I need to know how we're going to draft this offer to the seller. Does that make sense?
That's a case by case basis. So based on the properties that you send, I'll let you know up front whether or not I'm going to assign it or whether or not we're actually going to purchase it and have it ourselves.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. I would like to do a lot of business with you. And, I already have a lot of these off-market deals that might fit your criteria.
Okay, great. Please send them my way, no matter whether or not you think it is or not. Send them my way so I can go.
Okay, beautiful. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, let's give them a round of applause.
Why can't the buyer buy the property and then after it closes, sell it to the investor? Isn't that legal to do it like that?
Yes. Why is the buyer not what? I'm sorry?
Why doesn't the buyer buy it, like your buyer buys it, and then after he closes, turn around and sell it to the investor?
Yeah. Well, the reason is because
Taxes.
fees and taxes. Okay? Because the goal is obviously to make more money on the property, right? It wouldn't make sense that the buyer will incur all of this cost and then incur another cost, because then you're not making a big profit because you're not renovating the property, right? So it wouldn't make any sense for someone to buy it and then turn around and sell it to someone else. You incur too much fees, right? It depends on the spread. Because I've been in situations where I remember many years ago, this title company showed me a property out in El Sereno in the Los Angeles area. And he says, you can buy it for this price. And I asked him, are you the wholesaler, or are you making the money? He said, yeah. I says, well, what do you have to lock it in? I just asked him. It was $100,000 difference. He was going to make $100,000 if I or someone else buys it, and I had the risk and all of the repairs to do. And he was going to walk away with $100,000.
understand also, just part of the fees as an example is just like documentary transfer tax, which is now a seller charge. So if you're now the investor who now buys it, who's now going to resell it, you have escrow, you have new title again, documentary transfer tax, okay? And the sale is now reported to the IRS. In many circumstances, if you're wholesaling it and the guy's cutting you, writing you a $50,000 check, okay, you're supposed to report it to the IRS, okay? You're supposed to report it on your income taxes, but there is nothing that is commanding that purchaser to put it on their income taxes if they paid you the 50 grand. So in theory, you could end up receiving those funds potentially skirting IRS. So the answer to your question is, why wouldn't a wholesaler want to just close escrow and then just do another escrow? It really is for those reasons.
It's mostly short-term capital gain taxes. So you're gonna pay taxes on a $50,000 spread, which doesn't make any sense. That's why they don't do it. So the way they avoid it is, let me sell it to someone else that ultimately is gonna be responsible to pay all the fees and the repairs.
License, right?
Some are, some are not.
That's why they do get like that?
That's why they have agents represent them. Yeah, so. I hope that was of value. Sorry, that it went a little bit long, but it just kind of resonated because it's something that just happened to one of the agents just this week. So I thought, top of mind conversation, be careful, be on the lookout, and ask a lot of questions. That's the only way that you're going to be in a situation. Because I've seen situations where the buyer will now sabotage or hold hostage because they will not release the cancellation if they're not able to wholesale it, right? And then make all kinds of excuses. Well, it's $80,000 worth of repairs. Now you have to disclose that to the new buyer, right? So they use all kinds of tactics and strategies to try to strong arm you. So just be mindful about the situation. Not that all investors are bad people. They're not, and all wholesalers are not, but they just need to be fully transparent with you. Yes, sir.
One of the best ways then when working with investors, especially cash buyers, especially if you're double ending the deal, okay, with short escrows, is instead of the traditional 3% deposit and balance of purchase at the end of escrow, okay, require larger deposits, okay? But if they're showing their bank account that has $2, $3, $4 million in it as liquid right now, okay, require 50% or maybe the whole purchase price, okay, right up front.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah.
And if they're having issues, that could be and should be potential red flag for you then as the listing agent / the buyer agent on that. If that investor for this 10-day escrow, okay, has an issue.
100%. It's okay. Put some skin in the game.
Exactly.
What's Steve to say? Yeah. All right. Good information. Let's continue. Next slide. Fire. Just a reminder, family reunion is around the corner next couple of weeks. You're interested. There's still tickets available that we might be able to help. Next slide. Next slide. I think we have listing pitches, buyer needs and wants. Yes.
3915 West Collegiate Street has a $15,000 price reduction. This Saturday, I will be there hosting an open house. This is not my listing, it's Vanessa's listing, but she wanted to make sure everybody knows that it's a $15,000 price reduction. We are now listed at a better price, so if you guys have any buyers.
What is the price?
9.8.
Awesome.
And what city is that?
East LA.
East Los. Awesome. Anyone else? Thank you, my man. All right, let's continue. Next slide. All right, next we got Chris Rivera. That later, sure. See, dude.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Before I start, a really funny story. Me and Gary actually went to a football game. It was the Rams and the Raiders. It's preseason about 4 years ago? Probably longer. So we go to the game, we get out of the Coliseum. Did they play at the Coliseum then?
No.
No, that was at Staples. Oh, not Staples, I'm sorry, SoFi. So we get out and we took a bus from Imperial and Hawthorne, got into the stadium. We come back out. We think we're going to Uber back home. We try to Uber after everyone gets let out. Yeah, we weren't thinking very clearly. So we're like, all right, we'll just walk until we can get reception. So we keep walking and walking and walking. We actually walked all the way back to Hawthorne Boulevard, got on the MTA, and came back into Redondo Beach. That was true story. True story. That's funny. And he's wearing his Ram jersey, and I'm wearing my Raider boots. Everyone's laughing at us. So, to change gears, just to tell you about the market. Market's been kind of flat, lost a little ground in the last 2 weeks, but it's been pretty flat. Rates are still in good territories. Conforming rates are sub 6. We've got 5 7/8 or 5.875 on a 30-year fix for conforming. Jumbo money is down at 6%. So everything is sliding. It's kind of stabilizing there. They're all anticipating rate cuts that are going to come later in the year. And we do expect at least 3 cuts this year. So we will get that. The new Fed chair is going to take over in May. And maybe that's what they're waiting for so that he has total sway over what's going to happen. But it's on the horizon. We will see lower rates. In fact, we got a report earlier this week that said that they revised depreciation levels for 2026. They're now back up to close to 5%. They thought we were going to see 2 to 3 in the beginning of the year. They're revising that because they know with the lower interest rates, we create a lot more demand, and that's going to push values up. And so everything is pointing to lower rates in the future, in the near future. And it's really up to us to get out there and tell the people that rates are going down. Because once you buy your home, right, you've locked in that loan amounts. The only thing that can happen from there on is lowering the interest rate, which lowers your monthly payment, right? It's like marry the property, date the rate. Keep saying that because these people will be coming back out and refinancing. We have a lot of people from last year and the year before that got 7% interest rates or high 6s, and they're refinancing right now. And they're seeing their payment go down by $300, $400, $500 plus a month. So it is real. It does happen. I know we say it. It sounds like a catchy phrase, marry the property, date the rate. But it's true because people are back in refinancing and putting themselves in a better position. So that's the market. It's great territories. FHA is down to 5.25, 30-year fix. It's incredible. So rates are great for you guys. They're only going to get better. Get that word out there. And what we're hosting at the end of this month, on Saturday the 28th, we're doing a first-time homebuyer seminar for all of your people. We've got all the literature out for people to put it on their social media feeds. So we anticipate a lot of people to come here. We are pitching the Dream for All program that is Cal Hoffa, but it can be any first-time homebuyer. Bring them in because there's no guarantee you're going to get the money with Dream for All because it's a lottery system. Right? But let's lock up your buyers. Let's get them pre-approved. They must get pre-approved. So we can lock up your buyers. You know exactly what they're able to afford. They know the numbers. And if they don't get the Dream for All, they're still going to buy. We have other down payment assistance programs to get them in. So the whole thing is getting people into the seats, get them educated, get them motivated to buy, get them ready to buy, and then you guys do your thing for a healthy and successful 2026. Okay, so I'm now going to take myself off of the finance guy and tell you I got a lot of requests this year, so I am doing it again. The Super Bowl squares, right? So we have 2 pools going, one for $20, one for $5. We need to fill them out. We don't have as much time as we usually have in the past. So we're going to hit you guys up during the luncheon. Put your names down here. Let's get this thing going. But 2 full squares are here. Okay.
Never won one last time.
Any questions? All right. In closing, go Raiders.
Thanks. Thanks, Chris. All right, let's continue. We kind of already did the broker update, so I wanted to give you a scenario type of lecture today. Upcoming events. This Friday, we're going to do a cloud CMA class, okay? How to utilize effectively the MLS and how to do amazing comparable market analysis reports. It's very easy. Let the system do all of the heavy lifting for you. This Friday at 10:30 to 11:30. It will be on Zoom and also recorded as well. Next slide. With more clients. So very excited about this class. Chris is going to be doing this next Tuesday from 2 to 4. It's a 2-hour. Please take advantage of this class. He's one that does amazing open houses, brings in a lot of potential clients. It's your job to try to convert these individuals. So he'll show you how to target audience, research and prepare comment buyer questions, so on and so forth. So I encourage you to be here on the 17th. Next slide. Strawberry Day, join us. That'll be February 27th, Friday from 11 o'clock to 12 p.m. Front desk. Next slide. And that concludes our meeting.
Before you
Yes.
go, before you go,
Yes, sir.